Hey you, back for the next chapter in my life story? Well, guess we'll just dive right into my world with binge eating disorder. Yeah, you heard right. I'm adding another shiny label to my collection, a curator of mediocre acronyms. In today's video, we're going to unpack a bit more of my personal journey with BED, particularly my experience getting diagnosed, as well as some of the work I've been doing to work towards recovery, and also just getting a bit ragey about diet culture. If you're enjoying hearing these stories or they resonate with you in some way, then please smash that like button and let me know in the comments down below. Let me take you back to my $1,300 Zoom appointment where I sought answers for my lifetime of struggles. Anticipation grows as I sit in the awkward silence. The kind of silence that only comes from oversharing and dissecting every moment of anxiety and distress you've ever experienced to a stranger that you're paying. My mouth is dry while he finishes his notes. The silence grew louder and louder. His sigh seems to echo and fill my empty office. He looks up and finally says the words I'd long to hear. Well, it's pretty obvious. You have severe combined type ADHD and binge eating disorder. Validation rushed through me and a lifetime of struggles finally began to fall into place. I guess I shouldn't have been too surprised by the dual diagnosis. The clinic is literally called ADHD and BED clinic, where they solely diagnose those two disorders. Two conditions for the price of one? Bargain. But wait, there's more. Let's rewind to a pivotal moment in my past. I'm 16 years old, standing at the reception desk to a women's only gym, self-conscious as fuck and feeling out of place. You know the feeling. I signed up, some lock-in contract with dreams of shedding weight and building some strength for my kart racing. I was assigned a trainer to show me around and develop a program. Her advice is to start on about 1,600 calories, eat more protein, minimize carbs. We're off to a solid start. She doesn't acknowledge that I'm already pretty active and I'm still in a pretty crucial point of development, both physically and emotionally. But hey, I was 16. Who was I to question the expert trainer? This was where I was introduced to a stupid little app, MyFitnessPal. You've probably heard of it. This being the start of a path of strict on and off dieting, excessive exercise, and a string of misguided advice. Fast forward to the present, where the past 6 or so years have been a roller coaster of fluctuating weight, guilt, and shame. Lockdowns in Melbourne during the pandemic pushed me to my unhealthiest state, physically and mentally. I felt stagnant, disgusted, and disconnected from my body. I hated looking in the mirror or having photos taken of me. Food became my biggest comfort, and it was a continuous downward spiral, a spiral that reached its lowest point when I injured my back from being so stationary. The pain was uncomfortable and debilitating. I couldn't pick my shoes up off the floor anymore. But the real turmoil was emotional. The words "I did this to myself" and "this is all my fault" ran on a constant loop in my head. It sucked so bad. On the other side of lockdown, I couldn't ignore the fact that I felt awful any longer. Fatigue and dizziness became more prominent. I knew I had to make a change, so I saw my doctor. He conducted blood work and additional tests. The results weren't great. I was pre-diabetic and morbidly obese. Deep down, I think I'd known for a while, but the shame and fear held me back from seeking help. Admitting there's a problem to yourself is hard enough. Vocalizing it to someone else was incredibly difficult. With a referral for help, I set out to find a dietitian, hoping for a magic plan that would transform my weak-willed brain into a calorie-counting superstar with unrivaled portion control. Little did I know that this journey would be about so much more than that. As I typed out the email while seeking a dietitian, my thoughts shifted. I was tired of yo-yo dieting. I wanted a change that would go beyond temporary fixes of one extreme to the next. I was fortunate to be paired with an incredible dietitian who I still see now. Initially, I had expected the focus to be solely on food and nutrition, but she offered so much more, particularly to my emotional state around food. Something I still find harder to talk about than anything I do in therapy. She's helped me in ways I hadn't anticipated but desperately needed. I am forever grateful for her. While my dietitian laid a lot of the foundations for my recovery, it was through my psychiatrist many months later that I actually received the BED diagnosis. Continuing to work with my dietitian, we've delved into the concept of intuitive eating, making peace with food and rejecting diet culture. Intuitive eating is a practice which honors both physical and mental health. It's a very personal and emotional process, and it's built around these 10 principles. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but the 2 I will touch on now is rejecting the diet mentality and making peace with your food. So now that I feel more comfortable in who I am, I can proudly tell diet culture to just get fucked. The endless diet articles, the calorie counting apps, the nutritionists encouraging steamed chicken and broccoli 3 times a day, the Instagram influencers swearing her black bean brownies are a great low-calorie alternative that tastes just like the real thing. Grow up. They are feral and you are the fucking worst. Fuck off to all of it. Get out. Go away. All this does is offer false hope on losing weight quickly, as if you are less because you are a different body shape or size. Diet culture at its essence is the promotion of obsession and restriction of food and exercise. It shames and stigmatizes fatness. It plays on one's insecurities and increases one's anxieties about themselves. It creates guilt around things that anyone should be able to enjoy. And it fucking sucks. Like, for example, when you've gone out, had a nice lunch with someone, right? They then feel guilty about it and they say, oh, I better go for an extra run to burn that off. I hate it. It's not their fault. Society's ingrained that in us, but you should be able to enjoy something. Like, you should be able to eat something for enjoyment from time to time without feeling like you have to compulsively work out afterwards. Ugh. Making peace with food has been challenging. The work I was guided through on dismantling restrictions I had around food beliefs was especially confronting. Removing good and bad food labels was challenging, especially when we've heard all these super fun quotes throughout our lives. All these fun little fucking, you sure you need that? Like, those quotes. Early on in treatment, we identified that one of my triggers for binge eating came from restricting food earlier in the day. I'd deprive myself in the morning, a shitty attempt at intermittent fasting. I'd get home from work and demolish anything I could. I was seeking dopamine. I'd feel low all day because I was fucking hungry. You idiot. I'd binge as a way to get dopamine. My body didn't have the fuel it needed to get through the day, so consequently I'd come home overwhelmed and exhausted, devouring whatever I could, usually before dinner, and then still not be satisfied after. And then I'd start again the next day, a vicious cycle. So instead of restricting food groups, we looked for places where I could add in food groups I'd been missing out on. So I've since adopted eating more frequently. Something small every 2.5 to 3-ish hours, starting with adding in a bit of fruit and a bit of yogurt here and there. This approach has been instrumental in my steps towards recovery. So going half a day without food only sets me up for failure, as I'd previously restrict calories early on with the mentality that I could have more later on in the day. But in reality, I would consume more overall throughout the day doing it this way, and often opting for for food with less nutritional value and the more convenient choices. So these quick dopamine fixes didn't do much for me in the long run. Embracing a pattern of eating more frequently has been a game changer for both my binge eating disorder and actually managing my ADHD. Not only do I have more energy throughout the day, but it's also helped improve my concentration. I'm more attuned to my hunger cues and can better understand when my body actually needs nourishment now. BED is complex and super misunderstood. It's characterized by recurring episodes of consuming large quantities of food within a short period, with losses of control, overwhelming feelings of guilt and shame. Its impact extends beyond just the physical aspects of overeating, the challenge often being around overcoming the mental and emotional aspects of it. I talk about it a lot in my previous video. If you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link for it in the description down below if you want to check that out. So I am still very much in the early stages of all of this. While I'm a lot better off than I was 12 months ago, I am still far from where I want to be. It's taken years of confusion, self-loathing, terrible advice, before I got to a stage of self-awareness where I could do something about it. Reaching a point where I sought proper help has been a really hard place to get to, but one of the best things I've done. So this video has taken a little while for me to write. It's been very confronting, quite raw. So if you're going through something similar, just take a moment to, be kind to yourself. It's a hard journey. Thanks for listening. And if you resonate with any of this or want me to talk about other parts of it more in depth, let me know in the comments below. Thanks. And till next time. Cheers.